Today on Locked On Red Wings, Sergei Fedorov's jersey is finally getting retired in Hockeytown, and the U.S. men's Olympic camp roster finally dropped. 2 Red Wings are on it, but there is one we feel is a snub.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Football season is right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Scotty, yesterday being Monday, the Red Wings social media accounts were posting, made a few posts, one asking like, what are your favorite moments in Red Wings lore? And then they quote retweeted a few. And to me, especially when at the end of the night they said, have a good night, Hockeytown, with an emoji, I read into that as they're probably getting ready to announce the Centennial uniforms, because we were teased that earlier in the summer, so that's coming later in the summer. It is later in the summer now, August 19th. Summer's starting to we're getting closer and closer to actual games being played, prospect games, but still, I thought it was going to be the Centennial uniforms. But then I woke up at 7 in the morning to a deleted tweet saying #retire91. And man, did their PSYOP ever work, because it got all of Hockeytown a buzz. Obviously, we then found out that they are indeed retired. I mean, the moment they tweeted that out and deleted it, I think all of us assumed it was an accident, misscheduled, but that it was leaked that Federov was getting his jersey retired. Turned out that was intentional, because when they finally did announce it, #retire91 was never used. They just had a video outright. So the tweet and the delete was intentional. Goodnight Hockeytown was at 9:10 p.m. last night, 91. The first letter of the last several tweets starting back on the happy birthday post for Travis Hamonic spelled out Sergei Fedorov. Or no, I'm sorry, 91 is what it spelled out. It spelled out 91. And then the announcement, of course, this morning came at 9:10 in the morning. So very exciting day for us Red Wings fans, Scotty. I love the little breadcrumbs they left us that we could have figured out, but we were all too dumb to figure out until they literally #retire91 this morning. What was your first reaction upon seeing the news this morning?
Fired up.
Yeah.
There's the talk of the office, let me tell you. And it was fun, like water cooler talk in around the office. Yeah, man, it's awesome. It is a sigh of relief, almost like a weight lifted off of the fan base a little bit. Like, this is something that a large group, if not the entire fan base, has been so passionate about for so many years. And it really, it felt like the only reason it wasn't happening was just because of like saltiness. And it was just like, oh, like how we left, 25 years ago, 20, whatever years ago, like, oh, like that's, you know what I mean? And so they weren't going to do it. And I obviously a large majority of the fan base has always thought that was ridiculous. He's one of the most talented players to ever step foot on the ice, and is certainly one of the more important players to that dominant Red Wings era. And it's awesome. It's so awesome. Not only just because it's finally happening, and like Retire 91 has been kind of a movement within the fan base for the last 10 plus years. But on top of that, it's cool to know that they're probably going to have a lot of those guys, around the team, whether it's throughout the year or on that day in January. It's really cool. It's really cool, man. I think that this is awesome. And I urge people to not let the current state of the Red Wings, take away from your enjoyment of what this is, which is something that has been building for a long time. Like, it's so sad to see in the reply to like the videos and stuff. It's like, no one cares, you suck, fire Iserman, whatever. It's like, Can we just like appreciate greatness for what it is? Like, this is such a big moment. Can we just put aside like the current state of the team for 5 seconds and just appreciate the moment that is, 91 finally getting retired? I think it's really cool, and I cannot wait to celebrate it throughout the entire year with the fan base.
I do think those fans are the minority, but of course I saw some of that too. I think most of Red Wings fandom is excited about this, because one of the arguments about this is this is keys jingling. Like, this is remember the past so you don't look at the product on the ice. It's something I've heard a couple times. They're just a distraction. I don't think that there may be some truth to that. I don't know. I'm not in the front office, but I think it's more about this is something that's been a long time coming, and it's the 100-year anniversary of the team, so the timing made a lot of sense to do it this year, because this is one of the greatest Red Wings, greatest hockey players to have ever graced the ice.
Yeah.
And he played for your team for the bulk of his career. So I think it just made sense. The fans are largely over how he left. I know there's still a part of the fan base who holds on to sour grapes about how he left. And just for people who, because I know, we're talking about a player who hasn't played with the Red Wings in over 20 years now. A couple of years before he left, he took an offer sheet from the Carolina Hurricanes, who, by the way, they're playing on January 12th. That is entirely intentional. Very cheeky by the Detroit Red Wings. But Federov signed an offer sheet, which at that time was very unheard of. That was a huge, huge pay raise. And that started kind of the sour grapes between the organization and the Red Wings. A couple years later, when that contract was up, there's mixed reports about what really went down. Some say that Federov turned down the offer and decided to go with the Anaheim Ducks for less. Some say that the Ilitches didn't appreciate that he was even considering leaving, so they pulled the offer. Either way, there was bad blood between the organization, how he left, and that's what's kept him out of the rafters since then. But the fan base has largely been over it. I know Fedorov over the years has made an effort to try and reconcile that relationship, and it seems like it's finally worked. Obviously, Chris Ilitch is the owner now, and he made a point, and I'm sure it was very intentional, to thank Chris Ilitch in his post for the honor of being retired. And it's time to let bygones be bygones and let one of the best Red Wings, one of the best hockey players who's ever played the game, be up there with 19-5.
He is. I didn't mean to cut you off. You're so good.
No, I was done. I was literally done.
He is. For a franchise that is this storied, this guy is quite literally one of the. I mean, pick an arbitrary number to where you think he falls in, but he is in the handful of like greatest players to ever step foot on the ice, and in his prime integral years was a Detroit Red Wing, and was a massive part to the success that this team had. It's never. I understand the way that he left rubbed people the wrong way and whatnot, but it's just, you can make it simple. We can make it really, really simple and just go, one of the greatest players to ever step foot on the ice was a Detroit Red Wing and helped them win Stanley Cups. I feel like that's kind of like,
I mean,
how are you not going to honor that? And nobody's worn it since anyway. Like,
right. Well, remember the Tarasenko conversation? We literally had this when Tarasenko signed. It's like, what's the saying? Crap or get off the pot at this point, right? Like
it's
like
been
let Tarasenko
unofficially retired.
Right.
Like, they tell people when they come to the Wings, like, don't wear this, by the way. like it's not like it's yeah, man. I this just made all the sense in the world, and it is. I'll tell you what. It's moments like this where I feel so like honored is truly the word to live in downtown Detroit at this point in my life.
Oh, it's
every billboard downtown, dude. All of them are just a red 91. Like, literally all of them. The Rensen, I live around the corner from the Rensen. You can see it from our apartment. That has 91 in, on top of the Rensen. Like, every single billboard, every single electronic like wall on a building or whatever, all of them had 91, and he hasn't played for the Wings in over 20 years. Like, it's so cool.
I mean, and it speaks to his impact, too. He played for Detroit for 13 years. He had 400 goals, 554 assists for 954 points in 908 games played. So over a point per game his entire career with the Detroit Red Wings, that is. He had 120 points in 1994, and that was the year he won the Hart, the Selke, and the Pearson. He won one more Selke on top of that, on top of 3 Stanley Cups. Like, this is a guy who, in his prime, he and Yzerman were, unfortunately, they played in an era that had, Wayne Gretzky in the league. Right. But, I mean, these were two of the best players in the NHL, and they were playing with each other. Yzerman had the higher end scoring. I mean, Yzerman had a 150-point season. Yeah, the
point production Yzerman had was,
Fedorov was probably a more well-rounded player. We're talking about a guy who didn't just play center, didn't just play wing.
Right, he's one of the best two-way forwards to ever live.
He played defense at times.
Yeah, he played defense to end his career, and Bowman even said that's like one of the where were they? They might have been talking about it on 97.1 today when I was driving home from work. Like, Bowman literally said that if he really wanted to, he could have been like an elite, true defenseman in his prime years, because that's how talented he was. But then his, offensive ability would have been quote unquote wasted. So what was the point? Like, ended. I mean, by the time he got to Washington, he was playing defense. Like, imagine that today. That's like unfathomable. Like, to like, imagine, I don't know, pick anyone. Like, imagine like some forward that it's like, this guy's. Imagine Dylan Larkin, like the last 3 years of his career is just like, I'm gonna play left side D. I think I'm just gonna slide in there and play on the blue line to end my career. Like, he was so talented, man.
It was crazy too, because like, part of the reason Fedorov accepted it is because they were like, yeah, but you could play 23 minutes a night. And he was like, that's more ice time.
Right.
And so he was willing to do it. Yeah, I mean, obviously the way he left a sour taste in people's mouths, a bitter taste in people's mouths. I'm glad that the organization and Fedorov were able to bury the hatchet, because this is a guy, talent-wise, who deserves to be up there. We're going to have to...
The last thing you want to see is, like, 30, 40 years from now, he passes away and it never happens. And then they're like, oh, like, now it's been, you know what I mean? Right. Like, no one ever wants that. Do it while he is still in, like, young and in good health, and you can have like a whole day around it and everything. Like, life's too short, man. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Right. And then in segment 2, we'll have an abbreviated segment 2 at this point because we ran a little long. Well, let's talk about a couple, Scotty, of maybe other candidates who can get retired. We'll kind of rehash that conversation because I think that's just a fun conversation to have when talking about this. But Sergei Fedorov, number 91, being retired this upcoming season, the centennial year for the Detroit Red Wings, on January 12th, 2026, against the Carolina Hurricanes of all teams. Stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you'll want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee to take the worrying out of buying. Scotty, last week, I attended my first ever concert, attended my favorite band of all time, Linkin Park, repping their hat right now. I got at the concert, and I got those tickets through Game Time. I got a great deal, spent a little over $100 on seats in the mezzanine, had a great view of the concert, but wasn't too far away from the action either, because Game Time gave me a top 5% deal, or showed me a top 5% deal in the area I was, and thanks to that all-in price toggle, I was able to see the price before I got to check out, so I wasn't shocked by fees when I got there. Said 102, that was including fees. So check out Game Time, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, so 91's going to the rafters, and it's going to look so perfect next to 19 and 5.
What a season, by the way. Like, we have the centennial. We have 91 being retired. We have Hockey Town back on the ice. I mean,
got to make the playoffs. Got to make
just
the playoffs. Cap it
like you
off.
have to, dude. Like it's just it's it's so funny. Like all of this is happening, and there's so much like positivity and good vibes and that kind of stuff that's being brought to the team this year. And then you're like, all right, boys, you got to lock in. Okay,
Yeah.
you got to lock in and make this an exciting year on the ice as well.
There's something to be said about vibes, though, too. I mean, Montreal, granted, they were carried by, not carried, I shouldn't say they were carried by Lane Hudson, but the arrival of Lane Hudson helped boost them a lot. But a lot of it was vibes turning into confidence, turning into physically making the playoffs. So hopefully you can get some of that, too, here in Detroit this year. And we'll talk about, we might actually mention Lane Hudson again in segment 3 when we talk about the U.S. Olympic roster. But, Scotty, short conversation. We'll just list a couple players off. But who else do you think at this point, with Sergei Fedorov finally going up there, who do you think is next on the docket, either as like your locks or guys that maybe the Red Wings should consider?
Giovanni Smith.
I'm going to cut that. You know what? That doesn't deserve to be in the episode.
No, you're not.
Your bit's going to die.
You're not going to cut it, though. You won't, because that means that you're going to have to take time out of your evening to do that.
Don't expose me. Hold on. Don't expose me.
You won't do it. It's interesting because we've had this conversation on air before. The Wings are an interesting case, I guess I'll say, because their standard for jersey retirement is so high, right? Like
Federov almost breaks that rule too because he left.
Right, and I think that you're right. They usually like to pick career Red Wings or guys that played almost all of their career, in Detroit. But even just like production wise, this is an organization that is so prestigious, I guess is the word, and looks at its own history and goes like, you have to be the best of one of the best franchises in sports in order to have your number in the rafters. And there are a handful. I mean, again, we've had this conversation on air, I think a couple summers ago now, where it was like, there's probably 10 guys that if they played for 30 or 31, 29, other teams, they would have their number in the rafters, and they're just not even really being considered for the Wings.
Or like they played for the Pistons and they retire everyone that plays for them for 2 seconds. But yeah, I mean, Scotty,
that's not even true.
It was a shot of the Pistons there.
Who are you talking about? What are you
or NHL wise, you could do Montreal because they also retire just about everyone who plays for them.
Yeah.
But the obvious ones are Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk.
Yeah, of course.
Datsuk's a lock. Now that he's in the Hall of Fame, I think honestly I think they may be waiting for Zetterberg to get in because Zetterberg wasn't 3 years in. He's going to get in eventually, but you have to be a Hall of Famer to be, retired here. Those guys are locks. I don't know how much of a conversation you need to have. I mean, 2008, Conn Smythe winner for Henrik Zetterberg.
Yeah.
Right. Pavel Datsyuk. Obviously, their resumes, Datsuk's a lock for sure. I mean, he had 3 Selkies, 2 Cups, 4 Lady Bings. Zetterberg's a little bit of a harder case. I just think it's hard to do Datsuk without Zetterberg. I think Zetterberg was kind of an underrated player throughout his career. Their production numbers aren't as high as some of the other guys, but I mean, you don't win the 08 Cup without Datsuk and Zetterberg. I think those guys, they might be on the lower end, but they were Red Wing lifers. They're both going to be Hall of Famers by the end of the day. They both have individual awards to go with it. They didn't put up Zetterberg Fedorov or Yzerman numbers, but they still were very impressive in their primes. Again, they're going to be Hall of Famers. Datsuk already is. Zetterberg will be eventually. I think the conversation is more interesting because Fedorov didn't play his entire career here, and he was very good when he was here. Does that open the door to guys like Brendan Shanahan, who played here for 9 years? And won 3 Stanley Cups here. Does it open the door for a guy like Chris Chelios, who played here for 10 years and won a Stanley Cup here? Does it open the door for
having your number in the rafters of Detroit and Chicago would be a heck of an accomplishment?
And if I'm being honest, I would say no to all 3 of those, but it's an idea. Because you're talking about, especially with Chris Chelios and Brendan Shanahan independently, two NHL 100 guys like Sergei Fedorov, who both played. I mean, Chelios was technically past his prime, but his prime extended into his mid-30s.
Yeah.
He finished second in Norris voting one of the years he was with Detroit. Shanahan was obviously in his prime when he was here as well. I mean, he just do you extend that? It's
for sure. I don't think Chelios will. I don't think any of them, like, those are guys that played long enough ago where you feel like if it was going to happen, it probably would have already happened.
Yeah,
like,
they didn't leave
like we
with
talk about Federov,
grapes.
that's an anomaly because of the situation, how we left and whatnot. Like I feel like if anybody has a case, it's probably Shanahan. But I don't think I don't. And again, like those to my point earlier, that's the Red Wings being the Red Wings. Like if those guys had the exact same careers for, I'm not going to name a team because I don't want to offend another fan base, but like pick most other teams, you're talking about kind of a no-brainer slam dunk to put up there. It's just, the Red Wings are the Red Wings and like the least ivory tower way possible. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. I think then the other interesting question is there anybody on the Wings roster right now that you think could be there? And it's such a weird conversation because I feel like the entire outside of Larkin, like the entire roster it's
too early
either
to tell.
guys that are obviously and are veterans or are really young players that like I would love Seider and Raymond to turn into those guys, but like we're in year 3 and they can't even rent a car in America yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're not like we're so early on in their careers. Like I think it would be kind of overzealous to just be like, oh yeah, like those guys are, they're our best players now, so of course they will. Like that, there's still a long way to go. So I think the only one you could maybe be like, like if he wins a cup with the Wings, like Larkin probably has a pretty decent shot.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the big if is can they win championships while they're here? I mean, right now the answer is
you don't
no
win
to
cup,
everyone on the roster.
Not getting up there, yeah,
right. I mean, with Larkin, it's like he's got to start winning championships. With Moritz, Seider, and Raymond, like you can definitely foresee a path where that happens. But again, you got to win, and 2, it's just too early to tell overall.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're so young. Obviously no. I don't think there's anyone on this roster right now who I can realistically see at this moment as getting up there. It's just too early to tell on most of those players. Scott, let's take another quick break. When we return, we'll talk about the U.S. Olympic camp roster. So stay tuned to that. Segment 3 coming up. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bet now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, the United States Olympic orientation camp roster. It is a mouthful, and I totally didn't do the cold open 4 times trying to remember how to say it. Came out today. 44 players on that roster. Larkin and Patrick Kane both made the orientation camp roster. That is awesome. I think Larkin was an absolute lock to make it. I was happy to see Kane. Kane's kind of like, well, Patrick Kane's Patrick Kane. The only question mark with him is like, would they? And the question will remain: will he make the team just because of his skating, but because of who he is and what he's done, and to an extent, what he can still do because of the power play stuff, his hockey IQ and his playmaking, makes sense that he would make it. I want to start off by just saying, congratulations to those 2 guys. Hope they both make the roster. I think Larkin has a really good shot, especially after his performance at 4 Nations, and of course the fact that he's always willing to go to World Championships, because that does matter. You got to play the politics game a little bit. I think Larkin's pretty much a lock. I hope Kane makes it as well. So I want to say congratulations to both those guys. But Scotty, the real conversation here is...
quick, do you think if Kane makes it, he wears a letter?
Yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah. It's just, legacy that he has. And on top of the fact that like he's a genuine locker room leader that people on the team go to.
Well, also, yeah, he is. And like guys obviously all respect the heck out of him and understand that he's one of the greatest to ever play. I mean, he's one of the greatest to ever play, period. He is also arguably the greatest, American to ever play. So like having that on Team USA, I think would be pretty cool. But yeah, obviously got to earn it still. So we'll see.
100%. Scotty, Alex DeBrincat was not on this 44-man roster. Alex DeBrincat, who scored 39 goals last year with the Detroit Red Wings. That is a snub. Like, it's not one of those situations where there are just so many good players. Somebody who is good was not going to make the camp. Frank Nazar made the roster. Frank Nazar had less points than DeBrincat had goals last year. Frank Nazar spent half the season with the Rockford Ice Hogs of the AHL. Like Connor Garland, who's a nice player, and this is no disrespect to Connor Garland himself. He had a 50-point season in 81 games played. DeBrincat scored 39 goals and had like 67 assists, or 67 points rather. 67 assists would be incredible. How do you make it? How does he make it over? Chris Kreider had 22 goals but 8 assists. How does DeBrincat not make it over those three guys? That's the one thing that absolutely baffles me when looking at this roster, and those guys are all wingers. Frank Nazar, granted, can play center or wing, but again, he played most of the season with Rockford last season. I don't understand why DeBrincat got snubbed on the initial roster, and there's still an opportunity he can make it. He can be a later invite, but it's just it is baffling to me.
It's baffling to me too, and I think your point is a good one, where it's not as though you look at the bottom of the invitees or the roster and you go, wow, like there's how could you have like made room for him? I think a guy that was a goal away from a 40-goal season this year and has done 40 in previous years and is in his prime, presumably his prime years of his career. I think it's really wild to me that he was omitted from that. Even if he just would have ended up being like a power play specialist. Like I'm kind of stunned that he isn't a part of it. I think it's a pretty big snub for sure.
Yeah, and Lane Hutson was also snubbed from the initial roster as well, which I know a lot of Red Wings fans want to find a way to hate Lane Hutson, but I mean, he won the Calder for a reason. The guy in his rookie season with the Montreal Canadiens had an incredible year. He had 66 points, 60 assists, and I believe that broke Larry Murphy's record as well. He was insane this last year. Obviously, he's a little undersized. He's going to have to learn to play his own zone a little bit better, but as an offensive D-man, there weren't very few who were better in that puck-moving capacity than Lane Hutson in his rookie season. So, I mean, for him to not be on that roster either was certainly something to be a little surprised about. So, but every year there's a couple of these guys too. Unfortunate that one of them is a Red Wing, but I just couldn't. I don't get it. I don't. How do you leave a guy who had 60 assists and 66 points off on a 44-man roster? If this is the 23-man roster and there were a couple snubs, it's like, you know what? There's going to be a couple snubs. But like 44-man, you couldn't find a spot for Lane Hutson or Alex DeBrincat? That's crazy. Holland, Michigan native Lane Hutson, by the way. That's crazy.
I agree. I agree with both of them.
But that's it. I mean, congratulations to Larkin and Kane. DeBrincat, I hope you find your way onto the roster at some point. Obviously, a lot of time left before February, but anything else to add?
91 is actually being retired, man. I can't even believe it.
It is absolutely sick. Did you see that some of the Tigers showed up to the game rocking the 91?
Yeah, a lot of them did.
Mm-hmm. Game starting in delay, by the way. I'm sure you saw that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm delivering you this news that will be going to the listeners' ears.
That I got
midnight.
Yeah, I got right. Yes, thank you so much. We ball, baby. 91. Oh, it's just the coolest thing ever. I'm so pumped.
You know what'd be even cooler? Making the playoffs in your centennial season. Let's do it.
With Hockey Town on the ice.
With Hockey Town on the ice. Bringing back Hey Hey Hockey Town as the goals song
don't even
during the playoffs.
Don't even. Okay? Don't even.
Put it out there. Speaking into existence.
Dude, you just It will be so sad if they just lay an egg on the ice this year. Like it really will. Like there is so much going on off the ice and so much, like awesome marketing and just like fan interest and fan events this year. It will be so unbelievably sad if they just aren't good.
Anyways, we'll be back on Friday with a new episode. Assuming we don't get the jerseys between now and Friday, we'll continue with our player previews. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.